Right. So the state of tank right now, I mean, it's not exactly a very original concept. Oh, hey, look, people think tank sucks to play. What a surprise. Never heard that one before. But seriously, I actually hadn't spoken up about the specific Season 10 flavor of this issue for a very specific reason, actually. I disagreed. You know what? So far, the most fun I've had playing tank in my life was at the start of Season 10. And I know that I am not making any friends by saying that, but it's true. I was on my Winston arc right then. You know, I say I play a bit of everyone in this game, but I do tend to kind of have phases where I sort of main a character for a bit before I get bored of them and move on to the next. And they kind of go in cycles and whatever. And, well, Season 10 was apparently the season I decided I want to play a shit ton of Winston. I really wanted to get back into playing ball, but counterpicking was just hitting me so hard that I couldn't enjoy it. Even if I was still winning enough games, I still just found it miserable. And so I thought, fuck it. You know what? What's Winston if he isn't just ball that doesn't get counterpicked? And you know what? I kind of was right. I loved playing Winston. And in general, I loved playing tank. I was playing basically nothing but Winston and Reinhardt for the first half of Season 10, and I was fucking loving it. And I couldn't believe that everyone else was saying that they thought tank felt miserable in Season 10. I was having the opposite experience. I thought tank felt really strong and it was a blast to play. In fact, if anything, if I thought there was a role that was feeling far less fun to play this season, I would say it's support. Right now, the only support I still enjoy playing really is Anna. I don't know, sometimes if there's a game that really suits them and I'm in the mood for them, you know, sometimes other characters like Lucio or Alari can be fun for me, or Brigitte. But a lot of the times, I don't know, like your average support game, Anna's the only support I'm finding consistently fun to play anymore. So I was really caught off guard that tanks were the ones complaining right now. Especially because despite starting as a support main and currently kind of maining both support and tank, I actually do feel like typically experienced tank players have the best takes on the game compared to other roles. I usually feel like my opinions on the game are very much on the same page as a lot of other like higher level tank players, and I look at what they say and often I think, yeah, that's a very reasonable take that obviously takes in basically everyone's perspective. And I think part of that just comes from the fact that tank is the strategist role, so to speak, in this game, where very little of it is about mechanical skill. There's not much aim mechanics in tank, and the only mechanics there really is aside from that is movement mechanics. Everything other than that is pure strategy, understanding the game, understanding when you need to engage, when you need to get out, which targets to prioritize, what team comps to run, etc. And so I guess that's what I told myself. That's why the tanks are the people who have the best takes on the game, is because they actually have to have skill in the strategy of the game rather than mechanics of the game. But here, I was actually on a completely different page. I was like, what have you got to complain about on tank right now? And I mean, I know that some of you are loudly screaming counterpicking, but what I mean is that you didn't have before. Counterpicking's been a problem for ages, man. It's not a new thing. What in Season 10 has ruined tank? I wanted to make a video about this, but early on, I genuinely had no idea what anyone was complaining about. And so I just felt like it was so much that I didn't understand why people were even upset that I didn't even think I had much to say about it. When I even tried to think of something to say, I basically just started saying, for the love of God, play Winston if you hate dealing with all this stuff or that stuff or whatever, which I actually do still stand by. If you are a tank player in search of mental health help, I highly recommend you play Winston. Don't give me any of this, oh, but I'm a Ramatra main bullshit, or oh, but I only play Roadhog. No, I don't care who you fucking main. If you are losing your mind on tank right now, go play some fucking Winston. You will feel better. You'll be better at the game. You will get better at the game. I'm telling you. Winston is almost universally considered to be the most well-designed tank in the game, one of the most high skill ceiling tanks in the game, but also one of the most basic tanks in the game to pick up. You have no excuse. If you hate getting cheesed, pick Winston. It's really hard to cheese Winston. There's not that many things that cheese Winston in this game. It's basically just Bastion. Other than that, every single quote-unquote Winston counter, like Reaper or D.Va, is still a matchup where your skill matters, and if you're just better than them, you'll win anyway. Unlike, I don't know, trying to run Reinhardt into Roadhog, like that matchup, you're just fucked. Anyway, quick side tangent aside, yeah, I genuinely had nothing more to say except maybe you guys are just miserable because you don't play high skill tanks. I know that sounds really condescending, but it really is true. I don't see a lot of people playing ball. I see a decent amount of people picking Doomfist in fairness, but I don't see a lot of people picking Winston, and I don't see a lot of people picking D.Va. These are generally some of the most high skill tanks in the game, and they're very unpopular. And these are some of the only tanks in the game that give you the skill expression to counterplay the kind of things that cheese a lot of other tanks in the game. And so I do kind of think to myself, well, if you think this is the problem with tank right now, why don't you just play the tanks that don't deal with those problems because they have the skill expression to be able to play around them? You know, you're complaining about the fact that your character doesn't have the potential to play around these things when there are literally characters sitting right there that have the potential to play around these things that ruin your tank experience, and you'll just turn your nose up at them and going, nah, I don't want to play them because I'm a, I don't know, fucking Reinhardt main, I don't know, Orisa main, whatever. That was genuinely kind of my opinion at first. And I will say, I still kind of stand by that opinion a little bit. I'm sorry. I know I'm not making any friends doing this, but like some of you fucking guys really need to get the idea out of your head that like, oh, I am good at this one character. And this is the only character I'm allowed to play. No one's allowed to tell me to switch to a different character. Fuck you if you want me to pick a different character. I'm only good at this one. Because genuinely, I think mindsets like that make you have poorer understandings of how to play the game. Even if you maybe get incrementally better at the one character you hard focus like your skill on, like you will have terrible understanding and terrible game sense if you are a one trick. I'm sorry. Unless you're like a really high level one trick, I have a pretty poor opinion of your game sense on average. Anyway, that was my opinion at first. But over time, I was kind of thinking, is there something to this? Because like everyone's saying it, man, and I feel like I'm the only person on the planet who's not feeling it. And well, I started to feel it. And I started to realize I don't think people were quite putting it into the right words, but I think I understand it now. Right now, speaking for myself personally, I actually do think that all of the most fun characters in the game are tanks. If I could simply pick a character and be allowed to play that character, which might sound very obvious and dumb, but we'll get back to why I'm adding that qualifier later. If I could simply pick anyone I wanted without having my hands tied, I would love more than anything else to go have a game on Wrecking Ball and have a blast. I would love to have some games on Doomfist. I would love to have some games on Winston. I would love to have some games on Reinhardt. But I know when I hit that Q tank button, I'm rolling the dice. There's like a 2 in 3 chance that I simply get to have my game on Wrecking Ball or Winston or Reinhardt or whatever, and I have a good time. But 1 in every 3 games, I will simply not be allowed to play the game. At least not on any character I want to be playing. Every 1 in 3 games or so, there will be a game where I am counterpicked to fuck 'em back, and my entire team has decided they don't care. They don't want to help me out. They don't want to heal. They don't want to peel for me. The carry doesn't want to give me Suzu when I get antied. The DPS don't want to follow up when I dive anyone. They just want to leave me to 1v5 the enemy backline, even though they're literally within shooting range of the enemies. But nah, they'll just fuck off and leave me to deal with that. And I'll admit, I've been growing a bit of a fucking ego recently. You know, I used to be quite a humble player, but not anymore. That part of me is dead now. I have seen too many moments of smooth brain play from my teammates at this point, and all the humbleness has left my body. I am now a hard ego player. And so I'll fucking say it. A lot of the times, even when my team is genuinely contributing next to nothing, to start out, I will still be able to fucking carry them, especially if I'm playing someone like Winston. I just won't care that I'm diving backline 1v5. I will just predict every single movement of every single enemy effectively enough that I still fucking win the 1v5 in the backline. I will bubble all their sleep darts and their antis. I will jump out of the way of all their hooks. When the supports start running away, I'll make a mental note of the building they run into and hard predict which doorway they're going to appear out of so that I can land on top of that doorway when they're not expecting it just as they walk out so that I can catch them on the way out unexpectedly. And if my abilities aren't enough, I will wait until I build Primal and I will solo the entire fucking lobby with Primal if I have to. But I will win. There's my hard egoing out of the way. Either way, this is how the game starts. But then, of course, the enemy team doesn't like that this Winston's just 1v5ing them. And so then comes the counter swaps. And I'll stick as Winston as the example because I think it's a fair way of doing things. Winston, I still think, is the single least counterpickable tank in the game. I think that if any tank can avoid being counterpicked, it's Winston, but even Winston can have a worst case scenario. So now let's say they've decided, okay, fuck this Winston. I actually already mentioned they had Roadhog earlier in this example, so let's just stick with that. They've still got Roadhog as the tank, and that's a problem for me. They've also got Bastion now, though, so whenever I jump down, they just pop their button and I have to get out or die instantly. And I know what you're thinking, oh, and the other one's Reaper, right? Nah, I'm not gonna lie. I think skill issue. I think if you're good at Winston, Reaper's not even that bad. All it really is a little indicator to say, hey, if you come into this area, then you're not going to be able to stay here long, or you're going to get your bubble forced. But like, so long as you never jump on a Reaper without your bubble, you kind of don't die to Reaper as Winston. You're faster than him, you've got more health than him. Sure, you don't really kill him either, because he lifesteals really hard off of you, but that's about it. Unless you play real dumb and don't save your buttons and sit right in front of Reaper's face, he doesn't really counter you very hard. In fact, he's kind of laughable. What actually counters you, and I will die on this hill, man, is Cass. I'm not joking. As far as I'm concerned, Cass is just a Reaper that has CC and range when you're Winston. Because, friendly reminder, Fan the Hammer does 350 damage in like a fucking second to a tank at point blank range, and if you dodge roll, you then get an instant free reload for an extra free 350 damage for a total of 700 burst damage in the space of about 2 seconds. Quite literally, 2 Fan the Hammers from a Cass at close range is enough to kill a Winston from full HP. And when you combine that with the fact that unlike Reaper, Cass actually has range, and he has Magnetic Grenade to disable your leap, wow. What the fuck do you do about that one as Winston, huh? All you can really do is bubble off his mag grenade, but if your bubble gets forced early, then you're fucked. Anyway, sorry, sidetrack. Yeah, we'll have this game where I'm doing great on Winston, and then, yeah, they'll decide, fuck you, we're going Roadhog with Bastion and Cass. Now, I will say this. I still stand by that Winston's pretty hard to counterpick. I think this is the only scenario where Winston feels unplayable. They need to like triple counterpick you for it to not be something you can still skill diff them on. But once it gets to the triple counterpick territory, yeah, that's when things get a bit stupid. Now you might be thinking, okay, so this whole unoriginal rant just about counterpicking then. No, not quite. Counterpicking's a part of it, but here's where it really goes downhill. Let's say I don't want to swap off Winston. I'm providing more value to the team than anyone else because I'm on Winston. And you know what? Despite the fact I'm being counterpicked, we can still win this. If any of our supports decide to swap Ana to Sleep Dart the Hog and anti him, same goes for the Bastion, by the way. People don't talk about it, but I think Ana's pretty good against Bastion. Sleep Dart and anti is really easy to land on Bastion and very deadly against him. Or even if they just go Zen and Discord the Hog or the Bastion and just fire on him, that'd be great. But unfortunately, we're just stuck with Moira Mercy as our supports. Well, what about our DPS? Oh, our DPS are fucking Widowmaker Hanzo and they haven't landed a shot all game. Okay, so why exactly do we have Moira Mercy, Widowmaker Hanzo as our DPS and our supports when our tank is a Winston? It's a good fucking question, isn't it? That means every single time I dive, I'm going to be going in alone. Which means, quite literally, I will always be 1v5ing. It's not an issue of picking bad times to engage if my entire team is insistent on playing so far back that they are literally never in the fight. So, shit. Now you might say, okay, but that's because you're playing Winston there. You should stop playing Winston. You should just swap. Okay then, I'll just swap. But what do I swap to? Say they have the Ana Zen that I wish I had. Well, that means that literally any tank I pick that's more of a frontline tank is fucked if they need healing. If we're talking a Reinhardt, an Orisa, a Mauga, anything like that, I am screwed. The second I peek my head out, I'm going to get slept, discorded, and blown to oblivion by a hog hook. And what are my supports going to do? I'm not going to get a Kiri, Susie. We don't have a Kiri. We have a Mercy who's hard-pocketing the Hanzo who hasn't gotten a kill all game. And we have a Moira that's fucking frontlining, not even flanking the backline. They're just trying to fucking 1v1 the hog. Okay then. So there genuinely isn't really a tank I can pick here to win. The best I could do is I could maybe go Sigma and maybe suck up the Bastion damage. Maybe not need that much healing because I've got enough shielding and damage mitigation to not need that much healing. But even then, if the Roadhog just gets to walk on me and no one stops him, and I don't know who's gonna stop him if the DPS we have are Hanzo Widow and our supports don't have Sleep Dart or Anti or Discord Orb, I don't know what's stopping the Hog from just walking directly through my shield, hooking me out of my grasp and blowing my head off. So in this theoretical scenario, the best I could do is play Sigma, even assuming I can play every tank in the game. But if I play Sigma, I'm basically just giving up all my agency. I'm saying I don't want control of this game anymore. I'm just going to do my job and sit here and shield, and I'm going to pray that my DPS do something. And again, if they get a stick on Widow Hanzo here, they probably aren't going to do anything. Now conversely, look how much fucking easier this game becomes in an instant if the DPS or the supports agree to swap. If I tell them, hey, I'm playing Winston, can we please run dive characters as the DPS with Winston? Like, I get that they've got a Hog and they've got a Bastion, but they also have an Ana and a Zen. Those are like the two most dive vulnerable supports in the game, and if they don't get dived, they provide ludicrous value. Considering they've got a Roadhog, I am fucked if I try frontlining, so there's no way I can win this unless we can take out the Ana and the Zen. Please dive with me. And if the DPS's reaction to that is, oh, you know what? Fair enough. I'm going to swap to Genji. I'm going to swap to Sombra. I'm going to swap to Tracer. I'm going to swap to Venture. I'm going to swap to Echo, whatever. Any of those characters. I'm not picky. Any of those characters. If they swap to them and they agree to dive with me and they get on the Ana and the Zen on the back line, well, don't get me wrong. It's still going to be a tough fight. Hog is obviously going to be hard for me to deal with. Bastion's going to force me out quite a lot. And the cast probably will be a problem for most of the DPS. But If we're good, we can win. If we perform well, we are capable of picking off the Ana and or the Zen, at which point the entire enemy team will start to crumble and we can win. It would also be a hell of a lot easier if the Moira came with us to help dive the backline, considering Moira is actually pretty capable of diving backline herself despite being a support. I understand it's not easy, it's tough, but it's winnable. It's not resigning ourselves to a guaranteed loss by picking a character that gets more value more easily, but has a lower skill ceiling, and therefore less opportunity to flip the game. But hey, I'm not picky. If I have to swap, I will. I can play Orisa here if you really want me to, and I can fight this Roadhog. But I'm gonna fucking lose this fight against the Roadhog, whether Orisa counters Roadhog or not, if my supports are just a Moira holding heal on me and a Mercy who doesn't even heal me but just pockets the Hanzo all game, and their supports is an Ana hard pocketing them and a Zenyatta who's constantly got a Discord orb on me. Quite simply, the math doesn't add up. He has more health and more damage than I do if I try to frontline, and I can't be a shield tank because then they'll just rip me apart with Bastion. So hopefully you're seeing the picture here. The problem here isn't even necessarily just, oh, counterpicking sucks. The problem is also, we have a fucking awful culture when it comes to the treatment of tank players. As a tank, because of the fact that you have to understand the game better, you have to be the strategist of the team rather than the one with the mechanical skill, you're also the one who's expected to make swaps for the sake of the team. You're the one who's supposed to counter-swap the enemy tank, and you're the only person who has to change character constantly. Unfortunately, we just have this culture where the average Overwatch player completely understands how counterpicking works almost entirely, but has no fucking idea how playing with their team works. They have no idea about the fact that the reason why Winston isn't working here is because they're picking the opposite of what I want. I want dive DPS to come in with me, and they're picking sniper characters. Of course this isn't going to work out. But all a lot of players will say is, well, fuck you. I want you to work with me. I don't want to do it the other way around. I don't want to have to work with you. Why don't you swap? And yeah, maybe you have some small semblance of a petty point if genuinely the tank could just swap and it'd be easier. But sometimes the tank can't swap. Sometimes the tank can counter swap the enemy tank, but because of literally everyone else on the fucking team, the counter swap will actually do terribly. If the enemy team has a Reinhardt, I can shut off that Reinhardt by counterpicking Roadhog, but that doesn't matter if they've also got Ana Zen. If I'm running Roadhog into Ana Zen, I'm going to be slept and antied and discorded all game. Genuinely, I feel like this is being too dumb. I feel like this is me underestimating the average intelligence, the average Overwatch player sometimes, but then I say that sentence out loud and I realize how stupid I sound. Because part of me thinks surely these people have to at least understand it's possible that someone that is a support or a DPS can counter a tank as well. That there can be more than just tanks countering tanks. But genuinely, it seems like people's brains do not extend past this point. The way that people play, they seem to only see, oh, you pick the monkey into the big hog man. That means that you're the reason we're losing. While ignoring not only the rest of the enemy team, both supports and DPS, but also ignoring what the fuck they're picking with you. Honestly, I didn't mind people saying tank diff all the time, even when it wasn't the tank's fault. Like, don't get me wrong, obviously it's a fucking dick move and don't do it. But like, you know what? I didn't mind it too much because at the very least, I genuinely believed that a lot of the time these people were just misinformed. It is true that I do think for most of Overwatch's history, the tank role has had more control over the outcome of a game than any other role in the game. And so while there are plenty of scenarios of people blaming the tank because they have nothing better to do and they have no fucking idea how hard they drop the ball, I do also think if you had literally no information on a game and you had to guess why it was lost, that you would probably guess correctly a little bit more often than not by saying the tank was the problem. Not that that means much. Essentially what I'm saying amounts to, hey, if you lose a game, like 40% chance it's the tank's fault, but like 30% chance it's the support's fault, but like 30% chance it's the DPS's fault, you know? It's not really very much of a meaningful difference. The whole tank diff thing I could handle, but this fucking cancerous attitude in the community where everyone blames the tank for not swapping to the tank they want them to play, even if the tank they want them to play will also lose and is a brain-dead pick there. It is actually comical how some of these DPS players and support players think they know how to play tank better than tank players and think they can select their characters for them. When at the very same time, these very same fucking DPS and support players will be the kind of people who, when they get told, please swap off Widow. You're going 2-11. Widow's terrible on this map. It's terrible with our team. Please just play with a team. They'll say, fuck off, I'm a Widow main. Okay, cool. Do I get to say, fuck off, I'm a Winston main? I'm not swapping off Winston? No, I don't, do I? But you get to say, fuck off, I'm a Widow main. God, this game sucks. It was better when you could one trick. Yeah, I understand I'm throwing in a more unpopular opinion with the popular opinion there. I don't think one tricks are good for the game, but fuck it, it's my video, I get to do it. To make things clear, I don't mind that there's a culture where you're expected to swap on tank in Overwatch. I actually think that's good. What I don't like is there's a culture where you're both expected to swap on tank, but also never expected to swap on support or DPS. I think this game would be more fun for everyone if we drop this I can only play this character attitude and we just had it be that every role, yeah, you're kind of expected to swap for the sake of the team. And I know what you're thinking. You might be thinking, doesn't that just take the awful tank experience and put it on everyone else? Well, no, because when you share the burden, it becomes a bit lighter. It won't be that every game you're getting fucking flamed for what you pick and you're getting told, get the fuck off your character. If everyone has to swap, if supports and DPS and tanks all have to swap to help their team every once in a while, and if that's the culture we actually establish, then no, you won't be getting told to swap every game. You'll be told to swap, I don't know, 1 in every 10 games. And most games, it'll be someone else who should swap. You'll look at the team and be like, okay, they got a Roadhog. Hey, supports, could one of you swap to Ana, please? Oh, hey, look, the enemy team's running Ana Zen. That's super vulnerable to dive. Well, we already have a dive tank. Could our DPS swap to like a Tracer or a Genji, please? If this was the culture we could establish with Overwatch, I genuinely think like 50% of the problems with tank just disappear. Suddenly tank's fun again. Because I'll say it right now, I genuinely think tank is already really fun in terms of how it's actually designed. Like, counterpicking is one of the only annoying, and as someone who can play multiple characters, it actually genuinely doesn't bother me that much. What bothers me is when I hit a point where one person counterpicking can't fix the game anymore. I need my team to work with me. I'm not even asking my team to counterpick the enemies. I'm just asking them to play characters that work with me, at least a little bit. If I'm going to be forced to counter swap, you're going to have to swap with me. It's as I said earlier, right now, tank doesn't drive me up the wall because I don't like playing tank. I love playing tank. I really, really do. But I'm terrified to hit that button to queue tank every single time, knowing 1 in every 3 games, I'm going to get a whole team of people that will leave me for dead and blame me when we lose. And not only will they do that, they will do that as they demand that I play the character they say I should play, while they pick all the characters that make my life hell. Both the enemy team and my own team as well. I cannot tell you how many times I have started a game and just been praying silently to myself, please don't lock Mercy, please don't lock Mercy, please don't lock... Oh, fuck! And I just think, God, how unfair it is that we have this culture around my favorite tank in the game, Ball, where he's treated as this unequivocal, you have free license to flame a Ball even if they're hard carrying you just because they're playing Ball and everyone hates Ball. But a Mercy one trick can lock Mercy even when it fucks the entire team and no one bats an eyelid. Quick update, because I realize there's going to be some lower skill players watching who don't realize this. Mercy gets high healing numbers because she doesn't require any kind of resource to heal. She doesn't have ammo. She doesn't rely on cooldowns. But in terms of burst healing or just healing when you actually need it, Mercy is one of the worst characters in the game at healing people when they need it, especially tanks. For that reason, there are plenty of support duos that fucking suck with Mercy. I always hate seeing Mercy on my team because whether I'm playing tank or support, it basically always means that half of my fucking roster of characters is unplayable now just because you want to play Mercy. And I just think to myself, wow, it really shows how unfair and one-sided the culture is against tanks in Overwatch. That, like, we can have this culture where tanks like Doomfist and Wrecking Ball are just the kind of things where your whole team has free license to flame you, even if you carry on them, because you lock the character that they don't like having on their team. Whereas Mercy can literally make every single player in the game more miserable other than the DPS, because locking Mercy makes half the supports in the game worse to play with her, and locking Mercy makes your tank less effective as well, while Mercy's also literally just generally pretty bad right now in the game in terms of pure effectiveness. But you can lock Mercy every game, even with teams where Mercy makes no sense. You can lock fucking Mercy Lucio, the worst support duo in the entire fucking game, and still, no one will bat an eyelid. That's just business as usual. Hey, you can't tell them to swap off Mercy. They're probably a one trick. They want to play Mercy, let them play Mercy. But if you want to play Wrecking Ball, if you want to play Doomfist, why the fuck are you on Doomfist into a hog? Even if you're literally winning. So yeah, this is my extremely fair-handed conclusion of all the points in this video, I guess. Tank players, stop whining a little bit and learn to play more characters. But also, support and DPS players, for the love of God, learn to play with your tank and actually swap characters and not rely on your tank to swap every single fucking game. Don't play Mercy when there's no one good to pocket and your tank desperately needs heals. Don't play Moira when the entire team is scattered so you can't AoE heal and there's not even a good chance for you to dive the backline. Don't play Zen when your team doesn't have any way to protect you and the enemy team's running hard dive. I feel like I'm explaining the bare basics of the game, but no one fucking respects these rules when it comes to any of the other roles except tank. And DPS players, if your tank locks a dive tank, and when I say dive tank, I mean Wrecking Ball, D.Va, Winston, or Doomfist. For the love of God, at least one of you pick a dive DPS and go with them. Play Genji, play Tracer, play Sombra, play Venture, hell, play Echo even. Hell, fucking even Sojourn. Sojourn's not even really a dive character, but even Sojourn's okay with dive tanks. I'm not picky. I'm not asking you to, fuck you, you have to play Roadhog here. No, I'm not doing that to you. You can literally play any dive DPS in the game you want. Just please, for the love of God, play a dive DPS. Please, one of you. I'm not even asking both of you, just one of you. Or hey, if I go Sigma, might be a good idea to then play a poke DPS. You know, a long-range character to take advantage of the shields, like Soldier, or Sojourn, or Ashe, or Widow, or whoever. Again, I feel like I'm explaining the bare basics here, man, but no one gives a fuck when it comes to playing with their team as a DPS or a support. It's only Tank who has to constantly swap to bend to the whims of everyone else on the team. And don't hit me with the practice what you fucking preach idea, because as you know, I play a bit of everyone, so even if tank and support are my most played, I always pick around my tank, because I know what fucking tanks go through. If I see a Winston, I instantly drop whatever character I'm playing and swap Ana. If I see a Zen on our team that's dying on repeat because our tank is playing a tank that can't peel for him, I go Brig and I protect the Zen for our tank so they don't have to swap. If I see a Ball or a Winston on DPS, I am insta-locking Tracer, and I will play with them. And you know what? I guess this is the big reason I really want to harp on this point. I know that people say, let people have fun, especially in quick play. They'll be like, fucking it's quick play, don't make people swap. And I mean, I guess I don't have too much of a problem with that sentiment if they really meant it, as in no one should have to swap. Though really, when people say that a lot of the time, they mean, well, I shouldn't have to swap and my friend shouldn't have to swap, but you should have to swap. You're the tank. But that aside, honestly, I really do believe the perfect world is the one in which everyone has to swap. Because I'll tell you this, sometimes I'll come on and I don't play a lot of Ashe and I'm not very good at Ashe, but, you know, I'll just randomly be in the mood to play some Ashe. And I'll come on and I'll expect to have a game on Ashe. And then I'll see, oh wait, we've got Moira Lucio as our support. We've got a Ball as our tank. Oh wow, I'm going to throw this game if I'm on Ashe. You know what? I'll play Tracer. And you know what? I have the game of my fucking life on Tracer, and I have way more fun on Tracer than I would have had trying to make Ashe work on a team that fucking hates having Ashe. And the reason I have way more fun is because everything is working together like clockwork. Whenever I want someone dead, I engage on them and the team follows up. Because we're all playing as a team and we're all playing characters that support each other. We actually get to experience peak Overwatch that way. You know what? This is how I want to end the video. I'm going to send it as my hot take. If you are like, man, I miss peak Overwatch. I miss that everyone's just outside of VC, doesn't care about their team these games. I miss that how shit the game is now, where like sometimes it just loses and your skill doesn't matter and blah, blah, blah. You're the fucking problem. If you're the guy who always locks the same character and refuses to swap, and you think you're fine to do it because you're not a tank, you're a DPS. So who cares if I lock Reaper every game and make everyone on my team miserable half the games I play because Reaper's shits here and doesn't help anyone. I'm not just calling you out because I hate dealing with you. I genuinely think you create your own misery. You not only make everyone in your own games miserable, but the reason why you're always Doomer and you're always like, fuck Overwatch, why do I even play this game? Is because you insist on picking characters that fuck over you and your entire team just so you can have your precious little main. And you don't even have more fun playing your main like you pretend you do. I see people tell themselves, oh, I can't play that character. I don't like them. I'm not good at them. I just wouldn't have fun on them. But I know for a fucking fact that is bullshit. I know for a fucking fact this hypothetical Reaper one trick I'm using as an example is not having more fun in his games by hard-locking Reaper into a fucking Widowmaker who blows his head off every single time he peeks her and he has no counterplay. I know for a fucking fact as much as this theoretical Reaper tells himself, well, I only like Reaper, I wouldn't like those other characters, I'm not good at those other characters, that they are having less fun hard-locking Reaper in a situation where he's useless than they would have simply giving Tracer a go, even if they've literally never fucking played Tracer before. Just try it. Just play a bit of Tracer. I don't get mad at my fucking DPS if they swap to a character to help me out, but they do bad on the character. I don't care, man. I get it. Maybe you're not the best at aiming, and maybe tracking people on Tracer is difficult for you. That's fine. When I get pissed at you is when you insist on not even trying and sinking the ship with everyone with it, and then blaming everyone else for what happens. I've made a lot of predictions since Overwatch 2 started, because I wanted to get good at them. I want to improve. And I think I already have. I think my predictions were a bit hit or miss when I first started. And I think ever since around Season 6, my predictions have been pretty on point. And probably my most ambitious prediction was my prediction that Season 6 to Season 8 will be the Dark Ages. Season 9 will start coming out of it. And Season 10 or 11 will be back to good old days, you know? We'll be back to quality peak Overwatch. And almost all of that prediction came true. Some of the only things I got a little bit wrong was that Season 9 actually, I feel like, already made things better. I thought that the first season they would try to make things better would be Season 9, which I was correct about, but I thought they would kind of drop the ball to start. But no, they actually came out the gate real strong with Season 9. I think that was a great season. But coming into Season 10, things feel weird. Because I can't point at anything the devs have done recently that I think, yeah, this was bad. This fucked over the game. But clearly a lot of people are just done. They just out. They have hated this season, even though it didn't really do anything wrong. And it is really sad because, like, I really am hanging on to hope for this game. I mean, I say that as if I hate it right now. I don't. I'm one of the rare breeds that unironically enjoys Overwatch. But I mean, I still care about whether other people enjoy it because, I mean, fuck, man. I don't like waking up every day to see another 5 million people talking about how much they fucking hate playing the game that I love more than maybe any other game out there. At least to play. I mean, story-based, obviously, there's some games I appreciate more than Overwatch if we're talking about artistic expression. But if we're talking about pure playing it and enjoying it, there's a reason why I have fucking 1,000 hours in this game. And I don't know, man. I really feel like right now we are not that far away from what is theoretically perfect Overwatch. But the problem is that it feels like we're nowhere close because the culture's just this fucking shitty to tanks. And the scary thing about that is, even though the culture is us, that ironically makes it harder to change. Because, I mean, how do you just make everyone be better teammates? How do you just make everyone nicer? How do you make just everyone understand the game better? Understand when they're the problem. Understand when they're screwing everyone over, and maybe it's not literally always the tank player's fault. Well, I guess you don't. I guess you just plead. I don't know. Please be better. Please be nicer in these games. Please try and work around your tank. Please don't be that awkward one-trick guy who ruins everyone else's experience because they're so insistent that they have to play this one character. Please don't be the guy that constantly blames their tank while doing nothing to help them. And ultimately, I don't have a lot of confidence that just saying please don't do these things is going to change much, unfortunately. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.